Hey, welcome back to Dad Space. It's Dave with you. Glad to be with you again. Hope things are well with you, your family, the kids, your partner, your job, you know. But mostly, I hope everything's well with you. I hope you're doing good. I hope you're feeling good. I hope you're taking care of yourself. Are you? We're like, in a new year now. So take care of yourself in 2025. This is what I'm really hoping for you, is you find some healthy alternatives to the things that you know aren't healthy. You eat better, you get more rest, you take some time for yourself, read that book, listen to that album, go for a walk, play with a dog, take some me time in 2025 and listen to Dad Space. Here, shameless plug. All included in one thing. Love it. I want to talk to you about something that I see on TikTok because I have multiple podcasts. I have multiple TikTok accounts and Instagram accounts and websites and all that. So I sign in under TikTok as Dad Space and I get fed a bunch of dad stuff, which I love. And this video popped up and I watched it many times. And I'll set it up for you. If you haven't seen it, I'll put a link so you can watch it yourself. But there's a gentleman sitting kind of outside of the back step type thing, and he's holding this metal spool of wire, which would be wrapped up with a ton of wire. And right, so he's holding this thing, and he's just contemplating, looking at this spool of wire. Very unassuming, just sitting there kind of looking at this. And it appears to be his wife. His partner comes to the door and is checking on him to see if he's okay, like what's going on. And he explains in that moment how he's had this spool of wire for over 40 years. And it used to be like really full and, wrapped around in lots and lots and lots of wire. But now the spool is getting smaller and the amount of wire on the spool is getting less and less. And he's coming to terms with the fact that a huge portion of his life, like the wire, is been used up. It's gone. And this spool of wire is less than it was 40 years ago. Now, there was some backlash around this clip because it seems like his partner was being very dismissive and not recognizing what this gentleman was really trying to say in the moment. And the couple did come on and they explained it further, and there's more to the story than this initial clip, but this clip really caught my attention more for the fact that this gentleman was wrestling with the idea that a big chunk of his life has now passed him by, as represented by the spool of wire. And just in that moment, he needed someone to talk to. And he didn't get in that moment exactly what he needed from his partner. And to me, that's kind of what Dad Space represents, is the opportunity to do life together as dads. Through the podcast, through the guests we have on the show, through the content here, to acknowledge and recognize men specifically and dads who are in that season of life where you're wrestling with thoughts of your mortality, thoughts of the life that's passed you by, all of that. And then represented by this spool of wire. It's just summed up for me what we're trying to do on Dad Space, what my goal is with this podcast, and connecting with you. So I'll play the clip. Again, I'll link it in the show notes if you want to watch it as well. But yeah, it caught me and it made me watch it over and over and over again. So here's the clip. And then we'll come back and talk about it more. But thanks for listening. Here we go.
Hey, what are you doing? I came out to check on you.
Huh?
What are you doing? Thought you were working.
I'm looking at this.
What is it?
It's wire. It's a spool of wire. And I'm almost out of it. Can you see the spool of wire?
Mm-hmm.
I'm almost out of it.
Okay.
And I've had this spool of wire for like 40 years. I bought it like this it's not a long time ago, but it's like 40 years of my life is in the wire that's gone. Does that make sense? This is what's left. Does that make
I'm
sense?
sorry to hear that, and sad for you, but you're wearing your Jets hat, and I'm a little concerned right now that you're wearing your Jets hat. I thought that's why you were crying.
Okay, I'm done.
So what really hit me in that was the last line. 2 words. I'm done. And in that, again, I watched it over and over and over and over. And I'm just thinking of you in that moment. Have you ever come to that conclusion? I'm done? Like, I'm done with this conversation. I'm done with these thoughts. I'm done with fill in the blank. I think about how many men face life in quiet desperation, looking for a companion, a voice, someone to keep us accountable, someone to help us in those moments when we come to the realization that there's more life behind us than ahead of us. That's where I am. I'm in my 50s. And I'm like, how did I get here? Like, how did I get to a point in my life where I don't see another 50 years ahead of me, so I'm not at the middle of my life. It's not midlife. Post-midlife, like was 40 my midlife? That would make me 80. 30 is my midlife, would make me 60. Like, where is midlife now for me and for you? You might be older than me, you might be younger than me. But I know that at 50, mid-50s, I'm not at the middle of my life, which then makes me identify with this gentleman holding this spool of wire going, I only have so much wire left. And I don't know what to think about that. So in your 20s, there's unlimited wire. The spool is huge. Like, it's never ending. No thought of this. And that's the thing. We don't plan very well. We don't think about the future very well. And in those moments where we feel like maybe we're losing control a little bit and we're feeling like we're missing out, or things are changing in our life, instead of going out and buying a sports car or finding a new partner or whatever it is for us, we just kind of get reflective, and we think about what we are, who we are, and where we're headed, and how much more time we have on this planet. Like, how much longer will I be here, and how do I make the best of every moment that's ahead of me? Now, by no means am I being sad and thinking that, in my 50s, it's all downhill from here. I'm not thinking that at all. I'm just coming to the realization there's less wire than there was earlier. And I think as men, we got to talk about this. We got to talk about understanding that as dads and as men, we only have so much resources. We only have so much time. We only have so much energy. We only have so much ability. There will come a time when your wires are going to run less. And in those moments, we need to come to terms with where we're at and how we can live our best life as dads, especially older dads like me. So let's talk about understanding mortality from the focus and the lens of being a dad. It's a few things. We need to focus in on our emotional awareness and recognize that acknowledging our mortality can actually evoke really strong emotions, as we heard in the clip. It's essential to be open about these feelings, whether it's fear, acceptance, or a mix of both. And it causes us to look inward and reflect on our life and use the realization that life's end is a way to reflect on our values and priorities today. By asking ourselves, what truly matters to me today, and how do I want to spend the the time that I have in the future. Again, going in your 20s, you have no thought of the future. You're bulletproof. And there's no idea of an end of the line, end of time, right? But as you get into your 50s and 60s and 70s, you're seeing a decline in health. You're seeing a decline in ability. You're seeing a decline in abilities as far as being able to do things or have the job or do the long hours. Your body's changing. We need to ask yourself what really matters right now. And understanding in this lens of the mortality of us as dads is our connection with our family. Like, is your connection with your kids and and their partners or extended family, is it strained? Is it broken? Have the relationships gone quiet? Has distance changed things for you? That whole thing about your kids now having their families and their partners and their responsibilities, and they're not as available. And the silence that happens in those moments. As dads, we really do need to focus on building deeper and connections with our family and our kids and their partners and their kids. Being present and engaged with your family can provide a sense of fulfillment and purpose. And if you don't have that connection, that spool of wire seems even less. So, what are some practical steps that you and I can do as dads to help us to, in this season of our life? What can we do? Number one, we've got to prioritize our health. I'm the typical dad. I have asthma. I have a crazy work schedule. I don't get a lot of sleep. I'm doing a lot of things at all the same time. And I know I could take better care of myself. As dads, we got to prioritize our health. We got to take care of our physical and our mental health. I think we choose one or over the other sometimes, but we need both. Regular checkups and a balanced lifestyle can really help us to live longer and live a more healthier life. So that we're in our 70s and 80s, we're not hobbling around because we neglected taking care of who we are. Prioritize your health. Number two is to create meaningful experiences in this stage of our life. We invest in real estate. We buy a house. We invest in our kids. We put them in college. We invest in our marriage. We love and adore our partner. But where do we invest in experiences? Where do we invest in friendship? Where do we invest in companionship? Accountability? We often don't invest in our experiences that bring joy and create lasting memories. What's the last enjoyable memory that you have? When was it? What did you do? And how did it change you? For me, I'm going to have to go way back in my memory to come up with something that was a meaningful experience. Think about something that came from a family vacation or simple moments like a bedtime story with your kids, or the joy and the proud moments that you have when your kids accomplish something, the love of your partner, and focusing on creating some more meaningful moments. I really want you this week to identify and go after a meaningful experience and make it a priority for yourself this week. Number three, around some practical steps that we can put into place as dads, is to actually plan for the future. When we look to the future, and I know this can be a sobering conversation, but it will have a huge impact on your family as you do this now. As you plan for the future, consider updating your will. If you don't have a will, you need to get one. And to get a legal will, like actual legal will, not just something you find online, but something that has some teeth. Get your will updated. Set up your life insurance. And plan for your children's future. This can happen at any stage of your dad's journey, not just when you're in your 50s, but in your 20s, in your 30s, in your 40s. This needs to be a priority. Because again, you think you have a long runway, but maybe you don't. And your lack of planning and attention to detail could actually harm your family long after you're gone. So please, make your will. Update your will. And make sure it's valid. By preparing for your future, it can really help to provide peace of mind and ensure your family's well-being. Let your partner know what your intentions are, what you want at the end of your days. There should be no question. There should be no doubt. There should be no uncertainty if they're doing what you wanted for you when you're not here. Make sure they know. Have that conversation, as awkward as it may be, to sit down and discuss end-of-life planning. I don't think we do it well enough in our culture. And I think we need to do a better job of that. Your ability to provide for your family also includes to provide guidance for when you're not here. So please plan for your future. Make it a priority. Don't put this off. Plan for your future. And then the last part around some practical steps. We talked about prioritizing your health, create meaningful experiences, plan them out. Plan for your future. Number 4, though, is mindfulness and gratitude. We've talked about this on other episodes around mindfulness, just understanding and having clear thoughts and clear focus on what you're doing. Be mindful and demonstrate gratitude and appreciate the present moment you're in. This isn't a time to lament about all the things that have gone in the past and your lack of control over the past. You have something you can control. That's today, this moment, and what's going to happen for you as you plan out your future. So be present. Focus on what you have rather than what you might have lost in the past. So that could be really repairing relationships. That could be having your will. That could be spending more quality time with the people you love. It could be reaching out to people in your community or past friendships and rekindling those friendships. Finding that group of people that keep you accountable and keep you moving forward. It's something very important that you need to focus on as we focus in on our mortality and where we're heading in this life. Another thing we can do is address the mortality that we're thinking about, as this gentleman was doing with this spool of wire, but doing it in conversations. Having open dialogue with people in your life around what you're feeling in that moment, listening to that gentleman, pouring out his heart, and using a spool of wire to represent a lifetime that has now passed him by. We need to have somewhere where we can have open dialogue, where we can be encouraged to open up in conversation about our mortality with our family, our friends, so that we can help normalize the topic instead of being afraid to talk about it. And we can foster deeper connections with people by having this conversation. Again, you're not going to have this conversation at the bar watching the football game, right? It's all surface level. It's when you can find somebody in your life where you can have this conversation in meaningful ways that you feel supported as you work through the spool of wire in your life. You need to have to develop a support network. Either you create it or you join it, but build or join a network where dads can share their experiences and feelings about mortality and about where they're at. And then plan for your legacy. Think about the legacy that you want to leave behind you. This could be through personal achievements, family traditions, community contributions, volunteering, helping others, making this place in this world better than it was when you got here. For me, it's podcasting. For me, it's having time with you and opening up the conversation. Maybe you need to hear this today. And if I can be the one to spark in you action and a reaction to this, to make you think, I need to be better planned. I need to think about what's coming for me and my family. I want my family to never wrestle. I want with me and with my future. And I want people to know that I'm not having a good time right now and that I need someone to listen to me. So for me, it's a podcast. This is how I work through in real time my journey as a dad in front of you, so that maybe there's someone listening, even if it's only one person listening to this right now that goes, I'm with Dave on this one. I need to understand where I'm headed and to have a plan. So if that's you and you're like, Dave, I love listening to the show. I love having dad space in my pocket where I can listen to an episode even more than once. Just go back and listen again. I love the guests. I love the connection that we can make through dad space. But if you're like, Dave, I just love to chat sometime. I'm not a licensed anything. I'm a dad with a podcast. But you can reach me through dadspace.ca, and I would love to have a conversation with you anytime. And just kind of work through this in real time, dad to dad, you and I. Because I think if we think we're alone in this world, holding that spool of wire going, wow, it used to have so much life here, and now it's dwindling in front of my eyes. And the reality that I am far past the middle age of middle-agedom, and there's less life ahead of me than there was ever before. And in this moment, I'm struggling, and I just would love to talk to somebody. I'd love to be there for you. Reach out anytime. And just remember, your family loves you. Your partner loves you. Your kids love you. Yes, you're going to go through stressful times. Yes, there's going to be strains on your relationships. Yes, you're going to screw up royally, make big time mistakes, and have to go back and rebuild and repair. But just like any house that's fallen into disrepair, there's always somebody with the skills, talents, and ability to take something that was falling apart and bring it back to life, give it new life, and renovate what was old and make it new again. There's potential in all of us. So no matter where you are on this whole journey, just remember you're not too far gone. It's not too late. It's time for you to connect with others, find your support groups, have a conversation, get beyond the surface level that we so typically default to, and get to a part where you can actually have a conversation with somebody, whether virtually or in person, and be accountable to that person, and they can be accountable to you. It's time to get out of your own way and realize that there is another dad who needs you. There's another man in your life that is desperate for you to get beyond the surface level and get to the part where you're like, you know what? We need to talk about this. We need to be accountable to each other. Did you do your will? Did you do your will? Did you do this? Were you purposeful this week? Did you spend time with your kids? And have an accountability partner in your life. You need it, they need it, so make it happen. If you need help, dadspace.ca, anytime. I'd love to talk to you. Thanks for listening. Hey, thanks for listening to Dad Space. Thanks for hanging out to the end of the podcast. That's a great sign to wherever you're listening to this podcast, YouTube, Spotify, Apple, fill in the blank, that this was a good podcast to send people to. So simply by listening to this point of the podcast, you're helping the show grow. So good on you. Thanks for helping us grow Dad Space. If you want to help us fill our cups over at Dad Space, head over to dadspace.ca. Dadspace.ca, simple website, right? Dadspace.ca. You can fill up our coffee cup, which helps us then to keep moving forward with the podcast, and use our Buy Me a Coffee link over at dadspace.ca. Thank you for being here. Thank you for supporting the show. Thank you for coming back. And thank you for sharing. Because the more dads we can help, the better. We're all here to help each other grow in community. That's what it's all about. And without you, podcast is pointless. There's no reason to do any of this. So you being here means everything. See you at dadspace.ca. Take care.